raindrops keep falling on my head. But that doesn't mean my eyes will soon be turning red. Yeah, so this song that we all just had the pleasure of hearing is a superstar named B.J. Thomas, who wrote that song, The Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head. This guy was a superstar musician, and they were like, let's see if we can get this guy for Growing Pains. And sure enough, he knocked out that real winner of a song right there, which all of the Bootu Boys songs may be reminding me the most of my childhood so far that we have done. That's quite an intro. The show is going to have a lot of work to do to earn its place with that praise. This is the Bootu Boys. I'm Spencer. I'm doing Growing Pains today. I don't do this show by myself. It's not Bootu Boy. It's Bootu Boys. Also, I'm almost 40, so really shouldn't be a boy, but Van Lee, Growing Pains. You had them?
I did, but I'm not getting paid to say this, but the Bootu Boys is a good podcast.
Okay. Well, the exact thing you just touched on are probably the two things I'm going to use to end these episodes, so don't steal my content any more than you already did there.
Deal.
Brian Vaughn, Growing Pains, the real ones in the show. Which is better? Which is worse?
I hate this theme song. It does remind me of my childhood, though. I agree. Nothing has ever sounded more like 82 to 89, and they used it for longer than that.
Well, so there were actually several versions of it. We got the same song because it was the same for seasons 2 to 4 or 5, I think. But I think the first season was just B.J. Thomas.
With just B.J. and the Bear.
It was just B.J. Thomas doing it himself. And then they got the female backup person there, who I believe was
Dolly Parton.
She was pretty famous. She did the Up Where We Belong thing with Joe Cocker.
Goes up where we belong.
I believe it was that version. There were so many versions of that one. But yeah, they got, for some reason, like real musicians to do this intro. And I don't know how that happened.
Which is weird because none of the music sounds real. One of the big things that was going on in the 80s is like everything was made by one keyboard, I think.
Well, what happened is all of eternity, people had to pluck strings and make music with horns and so forth. Suddenly, Moog comes along or whatever and says, watch this, these noises aren't real.
By the way, awesome job pronouncing that right.
Because it's M-O-O-G, isn't
yeah.
it? Okay. Well, anyway, they get that beep and whistle, and Wendy, what's-her-name's there playing with the knobs and sticking bolts into things. And then they're like, well, we got to do this in every movie that ever comes out now.
It's sometime in the 80s, someone was like, you know, we like how drums are percussive. Let's stop that. Let's make them wet and just make it like you're stepping on like wet leaves.
And Phil Collins somewhere is like, yes, God.
Enough about music and
I forgot to answer your question. I'd rather feel all the physical pain in the world
than to watch the show.
Than to watch Growing Pains.
Okay.
No, that's not true. This show's just really bad. I didn't mind watching it, though. We'll get into that.
Van, real quickly, will you bail me out and tell me who created Growing Pains with Google? Because I didn't write that down.
It's Kirk Cameron.
Yeah, it might as well have been. He took over later.
Well, Spencer, it appears the internet says that someone named Neil Marlins created Growing Pains.
And he also did Wonder Years with Fred Savage.
That's just the same show, right?
No, that show is far more a real show than this.
Okay, so I might enjoy watching that.
There's no laugh track. It's more dramatic.
So it's not a comedy then.
It's funny in that way, in a way that is family friendly, but it's more, it's supposed to be a coming of age tale, not a sitcom. I think it also might have been an hour-long show.
Ooh, wow. I didn't know that. I did know it was very heavy-handed.
I've seen all of it.
Stuff. Really?
Yeah.
I just remember Fred Savage getting a lot of shit in general. And I guess
too.
Kind of undermines the whatever quality the show might have had. I don't know. So the reputation being...
It's weird he would get so much shit because he also got to be in The Wizard.
He played Super Mario 3?
Yeah, that's like the whole movie. Or that's what he has to do to win at movie.
So anyway, that guy, Neil Marlins, that
He's
guy...
a big fish with a spear on it.
I think he's more than one, based on the name.
Apparently. He is the person who did this masterpiece of a show, which was ABC's kind of flagship show of the 80s.
Really?
We didn't talk about this, I don't think, but Brian, did you pick the show because it was known as The Father Knows Best of the 80s by chance?
No, I picked this show because it was sort of, to me, an analog for Home Improvement from the 80s, which is an immensely popular show I had no experience with that was allegedly a family comedy, but I didn't necessarily think was funny, good, or useful.
It just really worked out perfectly considering that I did The Father Knows Best of the 60s. I did the actual one. But that's actually the reputation the show has gone down as having And it was, again, until the very end when it fell off, it was super popular. It did win all kinds of awards. I didn't even write them down because there were so many. Kirk Cameron won everything, like the young actor thing. And
Must
the
be
lighting.
going great for him.
The lighting, the Growing Pains lighting won so many awards. When you watch it, you see that. You're like, oh my God, the lighting.
Look how well lit that chair is.
I can see every part of Alan Thicke's face in this scene. So yeah, it won a bunch of shit, and until the last couple seasons when it started to lose some of its momentum, I guess you could say, and was canceled like most shows are unceremoniously, it was a dominating ratings thing. And it was actually, by the way, supposed to be ABC's answer to the CBS magic of The Cosby Show. So they were trying to steal some of that thunder and compete with their rival network, of course. So that's the backdrop of this time period.
Obviously, circumstances are different now, but as a kid, I did enjoy The Cosby Show.
Sure.
I loved that show. I had never seen this one, though. I hadn't either. What show are we covering? I almost said Wonder Years. Growing Pains. Never watched it.
I saw quite a few episodes on it in syndication after the fact, but it was actually on for 7 seasons of 85 to 92, 166 episodes. Like I said, in season 7, they just canceled it because people were sick of it. They were sick of the fact that the show was about raising children that were now all like 20, and there was really not much left in it. Did you guys happen to see, or did you know that in season 7, as a desperate move to increase the ratings, they brought in a young Leonardo DiCaprio into the show?
For 24 episodes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I actually did know this, having never even seen the show, and then still failed to pick an episode he was in.
I mean, it's fine.
I was way too focused on the plot synopses I was reading.
Well, yeah, you had to get Matthew Perry in there.
Right.
So apparently it didn't really work. The cast knew that they had something kind of special with him, but it was too late to save the show. The audiences had lost interest, and it didn't really make a difference in the ratings. So he left on his own, and the show got canceled separately.
And everybody knows what happened after that, which is Kirk Cameron would
Romeo
go on
and
to star
Juliet.
Yeah, Kirk Cameron was in Romeo plus Juliet, Titanic,
He got eaten
The
by the
Revenant.
bear.
Yeah, Gangs of New York. Man, so many Kirk Cameron sex scenes. Oh, I'm thinking of DiCaprio.
Easy careers to mix up. I
More
would
like
say.
DiCaprio, am I right?
So wait, I had down Leonardo DiCaprio was in God's Not Dead and Fire and Fireproof.
Nope, surprisingly wrong.
Huh.
I now would like to see this happen.
Him play
I'm
the
more
role of
interested
Fireproof.
in Leonardo DiCaprio doing Kirk Cameron's roles than vice versa.
I am too, because seeing like a real actor try to jerk off to a boat on camera, man, it'd be worth the price of admission or PureFlix subscription.
No. They've rebranded. They are Great American PureFlix now.
Well, that takes away a lot of the confusion.
Oh, I thought it was Swedish.
Yeah, Afghani PureFlix sucks.
I think that's really our base likes the word American, so let's slap it on there. And you know what? It's not just American, it's Great American.
Well, that's like, I mean, are you really appealing to your base any harder than you already were? I don't feel like that's bringing anyone new into the tent.
Maybe they upset some people and they were like, let's get them back by adding Great American to it or something.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say they upset some people, then they had to go on the run and hide, and they're like, we'll change our name, a la, like, what's the term? Not
like
Secret
witness
Service.
protection.
Yeah. But for PureFlix.
Throw Great American at the front of it.
That's all they did.
Streaming services having to go into witness protection. Quibi's out there somewhere calling itself like WebC.
I think Quibi's plenty dead.
So we will get into Kirk Cameron at great length coming up
right
here.
up in there.
He wouldn't like that. But what I'm going to start
Not
with
unless
is
you're married to him.
some of the other cast members first in Growing Pains. It's going to be quick because there were only basically the Seaver family in this show, which is what the show's about. The misadventures of the Seaver family. They had a next door neighbor that we don't see named the Kuzmans, by the way, so you guys know.
Not Mr. Achmonic from Alf. I wish.
Is this former Mets pitcher Jerry Kuzman?
Yep. And Seaver, yeah, and the Mets 69
No.
rotation. It was on purpose.
That's on purpose.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was on purpose for sure.
Do they have a neighbor named Nolan Ryan?
Not that we saw.
Okay.
I don't know that for sure. So the rest of the cast, we've got Jason, who is the father and psychologist.
Oh, okay. I knew he was a doctor. I didn't realize he was a psychologist.
Yeah, we don't see much of his career, but he is
Probably none, like all of these sitcoms we cover, where you just don't, they all have these noble
impressive
professions.
ones. Yeah,
you just don't see them.
But apparently he's a psychologist or a psychiatrist, even one of the two. And that is the Canadian talk show host legend, Alan Thicke, who really was taken. ABC got him from He had a show named after him in Canada that was immensely popular before Growing
It's called
Pains.
Thick as Fuck.
They tried to make it like Thick of the Night or something.
That's
and it
good.
was supposed to
You
compete.
should have just called it In the Thick of It.
It was supposed to compete with the Johnny Carson show. It didn't work.
That is wild. I can't.
Wild, crazy stuff.
But apparently in Canada, when it was just the...
Hold on.
Oh, that's true, Johnny. I'm wasted.
Oh,
That's my Ed McMahon.
All of our listeners out there are like, I hope I get a Johnny Carson reference. That's so topical.
And we're too
hilarious.
young to do that reference.
We are. That's the best part about it. Okay, Growing Pains.
No, it's fine.
No, Alan Thicke, handsome fella.
You think so?
I think so.
Okay.
You know what? I think he's charming.
I think he's
I
good.
like Alan
I do
Thicke.
too. I think he
I
has
think
a
there's
charisma.
nothing wrong with Alan Thicke at all.
Did you guys know he wrote the theme songs for Different Strokes and The Facts of Life, both?
He did. He just didn't do this music.
You know why? Because this one sucks worse.
I don't know those two, to be honest.
I had heard them before when I looked them up, but I had not really seen either of those shows either.
I thought it was super interesting that this guy got his start in talk shows and apparently, like I said, was super famous in Canada. And it didn't work here. He couldn't make it work next to Johnny Carson, but they were like, he could be Kirk Cameron's dad. Let's get him in this.
Alan Thicke is one of those, we don't really have these anymore, those broad entertainer types who sing, dance, act, compose, do a little bit of all of it with mainly, you're trying to be famous.
Whatever sticks.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Then we have Maggie, his wife, who is played by Joanna Kearns. I don't know anything about her. She came from a show that had just been canceled like he did, and they were both newly divorced single parents. So they apparently had very good on and off-screen chemistry, which is why they got the roles. And they liked each other a lot, professionally and personally, but made the conscious decision not to start fucking because the show could take off, and then if their relationship didn't work, it would be awkward. So they're like, let's just be friends. We'll keep it professional, and that chemistry will stay, but we won't do anything.
You avoid
risky.
the risk of any going pains, which is when you have to leave the other person.
I think it's great that Alan Thicke was able to restrain himself that way. I wish he would have passed some of that restraint on to his son.
Ooh.
What?
Who's a fucking creep.
Sexually, I think he's all restraint.
The real one, the real guy ended up maybe restraining too much of himself.
So Joanna Kearns also, I did not know this. She's been like a very prominent TV director for 25 years, like prestige shows, sitcoms, everything.
That's cool.
Good for her. And then we have Kirk Cameron, who I'm not ready to get into yet. Let's save him for last because that's going to take a while.
Should we do a whole separate
We
episode?
probably should. We're going to need to at least give him the Tim Allen treatment here in a bit.
We'll see who gets angriest, because you surprised
I can't really
me with
get
Tim
angry
Allen.
here. I don't want to derail my own show.
That's fair.
So we'll see what
Just
happens.
as long as no one curses.
Let's come back to Kirk here in a bit because we also have Carol, his sister in the show, Tracy Gold. Tracy Gold was actually not the first choice for Carol. They gave it to some person named Elizabeth Gray for the pilot, and then audiences didn't like her. So they were like, Tracy, get back here and play that role.
I think she does a pretty solid job. There are a lot of flaws here, but I like her as manic, crazy, smart girl. I think she was great.
I've got a sad story for you.
Yeah.
Did you read about it?
Yeah, her weight stuff.
Yeah, Tracy Gold, which
Horrible.
the show kind of fucked up themselves. Tracy Gold in real life, between I think it was seasons 3 and 4, around 19, put on a little bit of weight between the seasons. She was never fat, but she put on a little bit of weight, and the writers were like, let's have some fun with this.
They were mean.
We'll have Mike and Ben give her some shit about being fat. We'll put fat jokes in the episode, which would have, I guess, been fine in that era. But of course, the actress took it to heart, had always had some issues with eating disorders and things like that. And then that spiraled her out of control. And she lost 20 pounds almost right away in that season, and then ended up going as low as 80 pounds.
Oh my
She was
God.
ghoulish in some of those episodes.
Yeah.
And it's horrible because all of society, including her coworkers and bosses, forced that right on her. It was terrible.
There's a fat joke made toward her in our
Yep.
second episode.
I have a clip of it just so we can hear that in
I
all its
didn't
glory.
know the background either. That's horrible.
I think she was from 130 to 80 by the low point, and they actually suspended her from the show toward the end. They let her come back for when they realized they were going to get canceled. They let her come back and film like one more scene with them, but that was just a terrible end. She's fine now. Everything worked out, and she got that under control. And
Good.
She's spoken about anorexia and brought attention to it, and we're much more aware of that than we were back then. So it's got a happy ending, but it is a sad thing that she was going through that, and the writers were like, let's pile on. Let's have the characters make fun of her for this horrible thing.
It's crazy that it took 40 additional years for people to start being like, I guess we should maybe think about it before we just verbally abuse people.
And then we have Ben, who is played by Jeremy Miller. Couple quick things about Jeremy Miller.
Sure.
He was mad that they didn't want him to take over Mike's role, and Mike was old enough to leave the show, and he's 20, he's not really growing anymore. And they brought in Leonardo DiCaprio. He was like, what? Why is it not my show now?
What's this guy have that I don't have?
So that part there is kind of the humorous part about Jeremy Miller, who hasn't
There's a lot
done
humorous
anything.
about him, too. Just wholly unlikable character and presence and screen
He's
presence.
unsettling.
Okay, so he's supposed to be a little snarky kid. The facial expressions he's using in the episodes drive me insane. Hard to look at him.
He's not very good in these, and there's a certain lack of expressiveness in his face, I think, that contributes to that.
Maybe that's why it looks so over the top when he does his little impish expressions.
Well, there are if you look at human beings, there are 8 faces in total, and then they vary a little bit, but certain features reappear.
Say what we're all wanting to say. Go ahead and do it.
He looks like some sort of monster to me. His face is it's not his fault. He didn't choose that face. But because of his face, when he says things like a character who's supposed to be an adult in a child body, it's unsettling to look at.
There's something about him that makes him feel like an Ed O'Neill type. Like an old man in a recliner, just there only to wisecrack every now and then when the family's in the room.
Yeah.
Right.
If he had been in a chair making cracks the whole time, I might have liked his character better.
I think he was in chairs making cracks the whole time.
That's
more
true.
than you'd think.
But the thing is, which is unusual for a young character, but his jokes aren't funny, and he's always only there to be like, the rest of my family has a life. I'm going to shit on it. Because he doesn't do anything. He has no plot.
No, and honestly, they didn't need a mini Mike. They've got Mike doing all the troublemaking, and then they've got Ben doing more of it at a younger age. It's just stupid.
I didn't understand that either. Usually you want to aim for having characters that differentiate themselves.
They think they've got that covered with Carol being the do-gooder, the studious one or whatever, but it's all so tropey.
And by 1987, even, I think we should understand that you need to go further than one kid is smart and one is mischievous.
I will say, on an unsettling note about Jeremy Miller, which I'm sure this was all sorted out and everything, but when he was 14, he had an aggressive older male stalker who was sending him, I guess, untoward correspondence on the show for a prolonged time period.
You know that Ben's character, the character of Ben that Jeremy Miller plays in the show's full name is Benjamin Hubert Horatio Humphrey Seaver? That is real.
No, that's pretty interesting.
Points for creativity.
This is the sort of stuff I found when I was researching.
You know what I didn't do? Research.
I wouldn't have either.
That's on you.
If I were not hosting, well, I usually don't, but especially not Growing Pains.
This was pure fun for me.
No, I get it. I can see both sides of this. Also, then we have Chrissy, the little baby they've got. We see a little bit of her in our second episode, but she's mostly season 5, 6, and 7, so we don't get a lot of Chrissy.
So that was probably a storyline of them being pregnant and having another baby at 50 or whatever age they are.
Who is Rhonda? There's someone in this show
That's Alf's wife.
Rhonda is one of the girls at the party in this episode we're going to do.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
But I call her Stairway Hottie in my notes because that's where they meet her.
That worked for me. Saying Rhonda, I had no clue. You saying Stairway Hottie, I know now.
Oh, man. Okay, this makes more sense. I took these notes a long time ago.
Right, yeah. And then Luke Brower, of course, was Leo DiCaprio for that last season.
Luke Brower?
Mm-hmm.
That either sounds like a relief pitcher or like a country music singer.
Makes sense with the Kuzmans and Seavers theme. But yeah, he was a homeless teen that the Seavers took in the 7th season.
That they stumbled across and said, this is mine now.
Yeah.
There's a character in this episode, I assume in the show a lot, named Boner.
Mm-hmm.
And he's friends with Mike, with Kirk Cameron. I thought it was important to let you guys know that in the show, Boner winds up becoming a Marine.
He does, after season 4.
View the proud, the Boner.
He's only in the first half of the show.
You gotta be hard to get in.
Wait, so that's how they write him out? They're like, he
goes
becomes
to
a
the
Marine.
Corps, yeah.
Huh.
By the way,
Fought in the Gulf War.
That character's full name is Richard Milhouse Stabone.
Oh,
Stabone.
That's where they get Boner.
I get it.
And then in this episode, we see Eddie. That's Casey Martell with one L. If you want to look him up, just one L for Casey Martell.
Hold on a moment while the fans rush to look up Casey Martell.
And then we don't see him in either of our episodes, but Coach Graham Lubbock is played by a guy named Bill Kirkenbauer. That is the character this show chose to spin off. You know how they always do that?
Wow.
They always spin off and then they have reunion shows, which did happen for this. But that was a show called Just the 10 of Us, where this coach, I think he gets fired from this school in Growing Pains and he moves to California. And they make the whole show about him and his 8 kids.
That is foolish when there's already Coach. which we've covered. It's awesome. Wait, is that what we thought about it, or did we think it was bad?
One of those.
It was somewhere in that range. Coach will come up again later, though.
Good.
It's not a dauber thing either.
Oh, it usually is. Do you ever, in your personal life, have to say, like, I have to talk to you about something? It's not a dauber thing. Like, preface it with that.
Now, I mean, you don't do that every time. That'd be stupid.
Before we actually start in the episode, let's go ahead and...
Let's do it.
Let's do this Kirk Cameron business, because it's going to be a bit.
He sucks.
Yeah?
So Kirk Cameron, just to rip off this Band-Aid, found himself out of Hollywood after Growing Pains, essentially, mostly by his choice, due to burgeoning extreme religious beliefs, I would say, like deep Christian beliefs.
So it was throughout the run of the series that this was happening, that the Christianity stuff was coming to the forefront? Okay.
It had been going on even young, and I don't know Kirk Cameron's family background. Maybe this was part of his background, but he eventually decided he needed out of there. Once the show ended, he tried to distance himself from the whole industry and his friends, the cast, everyone who he'd been close to his whole upbringing. You know, he was a young guy during this, and he wouldn't talk to anyone in the cast for years after the show ended, wouldn't return their calls, wouldn't do anything.
Did he just find them to be disgusting heathens? Was that all it was?
What Cameron said is, at the time he was young and, yes, essentially thought, I would like to get away from Hollywood. They're part of that gross establishment. He did later say, my handling of this was bad and hurtful. That's all he was able to offer, though. And then he made a bunch of movies that I found bad and hurtful, which are Christian-themed movies that insult other ways of life and are very hate-filled. And he has a movie called Saving Christmas, where the whole thing is about how you should buy into the capitalist element of Christmas, which is, you don't usually see that in Christian-produced content, but I guess you do now, because, you got to tie it all together. But he's a cash-grabbing fakie, if you ask me.
I've chosen to do my Kirk Cameron bit here.
Okay.
And talk about the movie Fireproof, which we mentioned earlier. Fireproof is a Kirk Cameron movie that's about love and relationships, but under the Christian umbrella. And in the story, he's a fireman, and his wife and he are growing apart because he's constantly looking at porn on the computer, supposedly.
Of boats.
Of boats, though. They can't show him looking at porn or nudity or anything even resembling that, so they have pictures of boats on his computer because he also wants to buy a boat. And then they say the porn stuff and all that. So anyway, he grows apart from his wife. They reconcile because I think his dad or something meets him at a lake, and they walk around the lake and say, Bible. So he
gives him the Love Dare, which is the special program where you can have a threesome with Jesus to get your marriage to work again.
So anyway, it's a happy ending. Everything's blah, blah, blah. I'm watching this movie, laughing my ass off about it with an ex-girlfriend of mine. And by the end, not even by the end of the movie, 3/4 of the way through, we have to stop and turn it off. She is so emotionally upset because, and this is way too personal, but long story short, she had been, what's the term, infallible? That's not right. Unfaithful to our relationship. And she was revealing this to me because the movie Fireproof apparently said, you need to tell him about this.
Wow, that's what did it.
That's what did it in Fireproof. And I still think this is the funniest thing in the world. Obviously, getting further away from things like that, you can look at it in a different lens, but Fireproof.
Well, this is a movie that we all have some personal connection to, weirdly, and I wrote 2,000 words about it once.
That's right.
They were heated words, too.
I was actually offended by the movie, which doesn't really happen to me often because of its deep... First off, the acting in it's horrendous. That there's nothing about it that works even as a movie. It made a ton of money due to its low budget and built-in audience. But the thing that made me mad was its insinuation that it is impossible to live any sort of fulfilling life or even be good to someone or love them without the aid of Jesus or Christianity, which is a message I find repulsive. It's saying essentially if you're not a white American who buys into our brand of, Target curated Christianity, fuck off, you're going to hell and you'll never be loved. Again, I was enraged. It's been a long time since I felt that angry about a movie.
And you still have that anger with you today. I can hear it. I remember reading that review. And yeah, that was a very good condemnation of Fireproof and what it doesn't do, which is
the
everything.
Things it did that didn't work somehow.
I actually did also watch the movie with my girlfriend at the time, and we were attempting a religious phase then. So I was more receptive than most. Didn't think the movie was good at all.
Did you guys pinky swear and decide to do the Love Dare or anything?
No, God, no. But she basically implied that she was going to be a little bit more careful about what we did physically, because it made her feel so religious. It kind of changed her thought process. So
it's a bummer.
I hope she didn't look into your search history and see any of that boat stuff.
Well, that was later, but
because that was when you were always wearing a sea captain's hat and you had like ships in a bottle everywhere in your apartment.
That is bizarre, though, that we all have that background with Kirk Cameron.
Fireproof.
And also, not only do we all have the background, we all saw it around when it came out.
Right.
It was a big deal for some reason. Maybe it was just around here and maybe other religious areas, but for some reason that movie got a lot of attention. It was well known for being such a shitty little low-budget, obviously Christian thing.
I thought I was going to have a real laugh riot watching it, and I have after. I've watched it twice, but the first time that I saw it, it was nothing but, righteous anger.
Well, this is like Parks and Rec. We all like the show. I love the show in certain phrases. The first time I watched through it, I would get angry because Tom Haverford is fucking obnoxious, and I hate the character. Second time you watch the show through, though, I can tolerate it. It's great. Fireproof. Parks and Rec, same level.
Same level of quality, for sure. I'm glad we all got to really share our fireproof life experience here. I didn't know that we were going to do that.
So the specifics, as far as I could tell, there's not any exact date or whatever that Kirk Cameron's like, this is the day I did this with my life, but it's listed as he did it at the age of 17 is when he had his official, I am now a born-again Christian. If you were from my previous life, I hate you, and disown the cast and everyone he'd previously known. So from what I could tell, it would have been, because he was born in late 70. This first episode we're going to do today was, it aired in early 87.
So we're right around the time.
So it would have been right before it. So this little thing he does at the end of the episode can't be, I mean, it had to have been partly true because he's not that good of an actor, but it wouldn't have been totally from the Christian faith that he brought this PSA to us at the end of it.
But it is definitely from the same place, this sort of like holier than thou indignation that Kirk Cameron carries around deep inside of his belly and still does. But you can see it as a child in him.
The next episode that we get to, he would have been fully into that. And he did actually have a lot of difficulties on the show when he converted to Christianity. Not only did he pull away from the cast members, like Brian said, and not invite them to his wedding when he was 21 in 1991 or whatever it was, but he also would go over the writer's head, like to the producers and the executives of ABC when he thought something in the show was suggestive or sexual. And he would say, we can't put this in. The people who are doing the show are just pornographers. We can't let them do that.
Growing Pains was not just the most family-friendly thing that existed already.
He wanted Mike's character to show growth toward the end and be a lot more mature, and like he was. So he was getting increasingly upset, and again was very controlling about it, to where he would be like, "I'm not going to say this line.
Yeah,
it's not going to happen."
You don't want that out of your star of your show that isn't even. It's different, I guess, if you have people worked with Jack Nicholson for a reason. When he was difficult. I guess what I'm saying is, I wouldn't be shocked if there was a re-entry point for Kirk Cameron that was denied not only from his end, but from Hollywood's end.
Yeah, because it's like, look, Marlon Brando's a handful, but he's Marlon Brando. This is Kirk Cameron at the beginning of his career. They're not going to give him any benefit of the doubt or deal with his shit.
And there'd be no reason to, because he also does not have
charisma.
He kind of does, I think. We'll get into that at this stage in his career, but he's not a good actor.
Everything we see is not acting, it's just who he is.
Yeah.
Like, it's fine for the
fair.
character, but I don't think he's acting
He
for
has
any of that.
youth group feel to him, even here.
Yeah, he does.
And in that way, though, it is this bubbly, like, invitingness. Like, there's something about him like that you do see here, but it's not, you don't see growth as a performer. In fact, there's an exuberance in this episode at times early on, and in the next one, that in his Christian film work, you'll never see. He takes himself way too seriously. So I think if there was a role for Kirk Cameron as an actor, I think it would have been as kind of a maybe best friend sidekick comedic actor, because he does have that exuberance, but I mean, he chose to go into dramatic work in the faith field.
Well, it's funny you say that too, because my initial thought here with his acting and his character and all that is that this is Screech, but a little better.
Sure.
Like, it's that kind of, I'm here, I'm bubbly.
And
he's not as nerdy.
He
as
is a
Screech.
much better actor than Dustin Diamond.
For
as
sure.
we found out in retrospect, was a terrible actor.
He's got a little bit of the Zach thing, though, where he wants his charm and his good looks to get him out of bad situations.
He's like
is what
if
it reminded me of.
tried to be Zach.
Sure.
Like he did in that episode we covered.
That's actually true. I mean, Kirk Cameron wants to look at the camera so bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's that kind of acting. That sort of like, I'm going to lap up everything there is in this scene.
I guess in the 80s, the camera loved Kirk Cameron too. He was an idol for the teenagers at that time period.
This kind of fits in here. I'll say it before we start talking about the episode. I think this whole cast, with a couple of exceptions, but the main cast is better than a lot of shows like this.
The acting is just fine. There's no problems with the acting.
I liked it better than Home Improvement.
Oh, well, yeah.
A couple quick notes about Kirk Cameron, and then we will start the episode. I wanted to mention that he actually is rumored to have gotten one of the cast members fired, although he denies this.
Was it Boner?
It wasn't Boner.
Was it Lucifer?
It was Julie McCullough.
Yes, it was a woman, so it was Lucifer.
Who played another Julie in the show. She was his love interest at one point. Reportedly, he had issues with the fact that she posed nude for Playboy and wanted her out of the show. But the writers he claims she was never supposed to be permanent, had nothing to do with him. But Julie McCullough says he did it, he had a hand in it, and he kind of damaged her career and is still mean to her today. Like, it's never
seems
actually
like that's
been
more
nice.
likely.
I buy that one.
Did you know this show's set on Long Island?
No. Why don't they have the accents?
Well, think about the side characters we occasionally encounter.
That's true.
They have a little bit of it, but I wish the Seavers were all talking like this.
That's right, Mike. Why don't you tell Matthew Perry I ain't at the library?
The last note I have is that Kirk Cameron used a wife double for all his kissing scenes and all of his future stuff.
Yeah, I did know about this.
So Fireproof, when he kisses his wife in the movie at the end, they zoom way out so he can kiss his real wife.
So, okay, that's what it is. I was thinking they'd cut it off so you only saw like the back half of his head. So everything else was off screen because they couldn't show it.
I wish there was something about his wife, like she always had a shaved head, so they always put her in crazy wigs or something. So that, like, every time they did the wife double, it's really obvious.
Or she was like a heavier woman. So then when they'd have these skinny models be their main
she had
actresses.
like 3 legs.
Well, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Maybe a robot?
It'd be faster.
He's not cool enough to date a robot.
No, he's not. Or a 3-legged wife. He doesn't deserve a wife that fast.
Because more equals.
I was going to say, would you be faster?
I bet I could be.
I mean, you'd sit.
The two I have don't work well now.
You'd sit really firm, like you'd be like a stool in and of yourself. So you wouldn't really need a chair, I wouldn't think.
Does one of them angle off a little bit, or are they all three like in a line?
I don't know.
So like one's poking at the back, so
For
it
the
is like a
sake of this experiment, we're going to say they're all rotated evenly, kind of like an end table.
Okay.
Like a 3-legged end table.
Can they rotate? As if like the hips are... Okay.
No, they all work like human joints.
You know how you have to alternate your steps? What does that third foot do?
I think it's a 3-way alternation, like kind of like a juggle.
No. The third leg, it's a leg, but it doesn't have a foot. It has a wheel. So it just rolls.
It's the third wheel.
Let's see. That's where it came from.
Okay, we've got it figured out.
Yeah, this is season 2, episode 15. Thank God it's Friday. It aired, like I said, February 10th, 1987, when Kirk Cameron was still 16 years old, so he had not converted officially to Christianity. That's important for us to remember this whole time. The synopsis: while Maggie and Jason spend the evening at home watching TV, Mike is faced with peer pressure and the question of whether or not to use drugs, which was a big theme in every 80s show. It's like everyone's not doing it. You don't need to feel so pressured just because Keith Hernandez and all the Mets are out there getting fucked up on
just
coke.
Because Lenny Dykstra doesn't remember his name doesn't mean you can't.
Why are we not talking about Daryl Strawberry if we're talking about drugs and Mets?
And people who wrote books saying God saved me.
Oh,
Daryl
didn't he?
Strawberry,
He was reborn. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
The 80s coke scare is such a funny concept now.
It really
I guess did sweep the nation at that time period, and now you see it in pop culture at the time where it's like, don't be doing that cocaine, kids.
Saying that even in the 80s is pretty funny because you would have had to have been pretty wealthy to afford it then.
Yeah, let alone going into the party they have later where all these high school kids are just flashing their own supplies of cocaine.
Hey, what was the Saved by the Bell bit with the drugs? Jesse was addicted to them?
Caffeine pills?
Oh, so not drugs, but...
No. Saved by the Bell's funny because it wouldn't go all the way at all. Like, it's always weed or caffeine. The best stuff.
I'm even drinking caffeine tonight.
I wouldn't mind some caffeine pills. It'd be fine. So our Thank God It's Friday opening here. We do kind of a cold open thing where we get a little preview of what the Seavers are up to on this Friday night. Ben answers the phone. It's his special little greeting, Ben Seavers' residence, because he's so feisty and 8.
Do you think families let their 8-year-olds answer the phone?
I don't think I was allowed.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I think it was a big deal when I finally could, when I was like, hello.
No, I bet you said, it's Spencer's residence. I'm a big boy.
Okay, this reminds me, I did one time, I probably told the story. I did answer the phone once and said hello like 4 times. No one was there. So I kind of had to go to the person on the other end to speak. And I was like, okay, I'm 10. So I was like, pig, hello. And then it turned, I don't know why it was pig, but I was like, pig, hello. And the guy was like, oh, is Donovan there? And it turns out it was for a job interview.
Turns out it was pig. For a job interview.
Yeah.
Wait,
so
someone was asking to interview with your dad?
Well, my dad was getting a job interview.
Oh, I see.
At that time period, my dad was looking for work. So that was a prospective employer that I called a pig.
Do you like how my brain went to, of course, if any scenario were to happen, someone would be coming to your dad for a job.
Calling him at home.
I didn't think at home. I didn't think the opposite of him. I'm like, of course not. He already is set and ready to sail and paint things and make his own wine.
No, I may have possibly, with my answering of the phone in the house, I may have cost my dad a job. So you might not want to let Ben answer the phone.
And he's much more likely to say something bad than you were.
Well, he does have that friend named
Vito?
Well, no, the other one, Stinky, isn't it?
Yeah, Stinky.
Vito's pretty funny.
All the side character names in the show rule. It's like the best part of the show.
But saying Long Island, that makes sense that there's a Vito.
There's a Vito, there's a Stinky. Yo, you ever need anything done, if you know what I mean? Vito's gonna fill a sock full of nickels and fuck them up.
Hey, Ben, come down to the docks.
So this call here that Ben is answering is really just our introduction to the fact that it's Carol's boyfriend, and they're not going to be able to do their plans tonight because he got a speeding ticket of some kind and has to cancel their date.
Speeding tickets. They happen a lot on Growing Pains.
Yeah, they sure do. And this is like his 3rd or something, they mentioned. He's had a whole bunch of them, and he's in all kinds of trouble, so he was grounded. He can't go on his date, so Carol's plans are canceled. Ben and Jason, meanwhile, talk about the importance of the parents needing to get out of the house on a Friday night for a special night out. Jason mentions to Ben it's a new sitter tonight, to please be kind, and Ben mentions, we don't need a sitter. Carol's date fell through, and I heard the whole thing. It's during this conversation Maggie comes home. She's exhausted from a long day of reporting, which I failed to mention. That's her job.
She's a reporter, huh?
She's a journalist
and a reporter, and we don't see any of that. All that sounds way more interesting than anything we do see.
Well, she's exhausted from reporting all day.
Also, that's something if you had a couple who were a psychiatrist and a reporter, they could not afford to have that many kids, if any kids in this day and age.
Psychiatrists probably could. They prescribe.
Oh, okay.
Jason may do, I don't know, he might have a little black market business where he gets some of his meds and sells them on the side.
Mm-hmm.
Sells them to Boner.
You know what? I'd like to get in touch with Jason.
So Maggie's exhausted from reporting and just says, TGIF, I don't want to go to a movie. I just want to put my feet up and relax. But Jason doesn't mind. He was excited about going out to see the movie, which they never mention. We don't know what they were going to see, but it's
probably terms of endearment.
It's not going to happen now, whatever it is.
Maybe it was Ghost.
It looks like everyone's going to be stuck at home together since Bobby got that 3rd speeding ticket in 6 months.
Alan Thicke's a good husband. That's what I think.
Yeah, if I had my heart set in a movie and my wife was like, oh man, I don't want to do any more journalism today. I'm just going to stay home. I'd be like, let's go to the movie anyway. Or I just go. That's possible.
Ben, you're coming with me. You get to make clever quips at the screen.
No, I wouldn't do that. Everyone except Mike is going to be home, that is, because Mike still has his big plans for the night, and he needs to get his shower on and head out to meet Eddie and Boner. Which, by the way, his dad does not understand why he would want to shower if he's just going to hang out with Eddie and Boner.
Yeah.
You'd be stinky for Boner.
I would shower before. I showered before hanging out to do this podcast.
Yeah, it's a strange concept. I know it's a teenager and they, I guess, don't always care how they smell or whatever, but the concept of, you're going to shower so you can see your guy friends, that's weird,
yeah.
Mike.
There's something up with this.
We get a little glimpse into Mike's character type here. It's what we were talking about with his charminess, because he says, well, Dad, I get a shower just in case I get lucky. And then we get Maggie's line, concerned mother, defying getting lucky.
Invited to Bible study.
What the fuck could that even mean, Maggie? Obviously, it's talking about Mike fucking, and he's wanting to shower for it.
I think based on what we see of Mike, I think his idea of getting lucky was just kissing.
Could be.
Do you think that that's what the intention was? Because to us, getting lucky just means fucking.
I'm sure it didn't mean full-on sex.
But it could have.
It certainly didn't mean doing coke, because that's not something Mike ends up being interested in.
I think it means like one of those games that I never played, but I guess are real, like 7 Minutes in Heaven or something, where he goes and kisses someone for a minute.
And in somebody's closet.
After he gets up the courage for the first 6 minutes, and then he kisses her and he comes out of the closet. And he's like, yeah, I did.
I had sex.
Yeah, because he doesn't know.
The plans are set in place for this Friday night, and it's time for Carol to bring everyone character-centric TV dinners now that they're all gathered around the TV.
This was fun to look at.
I wrote it down because we have to talk about it. So for Ben, it's beans and weenies. Carol gets macho meat beef.
What? Macho meat beef?
Was that not it?
No, I didn't hear it.
Oh, that's it.
That macho meat beef.
Macho meat beef.
Well, I don't know what that is, but it makes me think of Macho Man Randy Savage, which makes me think of
it does.
Slim Jims. So I think it's just Slim Jims.
She gets a plate of Slim Jims.
Have you guys eaten a Slim Jim recently?
Not recently.
They are not good.
Huh.
Do you snap into them though still? Do they?
Yes, that's how you do it. But no, they're very over processed. There are better jerky things out there that I don't think you can even call it jerky.
Made out of sheep parts, That was in the commercial. Randy Savage
sheep
said that.
Parts?
Yeah.
So Jason gets, it sure tastes like chicken, and that's it. We don't learn what Maggie's is. She doesn't say her own.
It's the news. She only dines on current events.
It's in this time period that Mike gets a call. The phone rings for him this time, and it's Eddie. Mike says, hey, I can't get that, I'm shaving, which the family thinks is just hilarious.
What would he be shaving? He doesn't have a hair on this guy. Probably his butthole.
Yep, that's where I was going, basically.
Jason gets a line in there about those 2 chin whiskers being out of control.
His butthole hair would be blonde. I just want to point that out.
Well, we've now thought about Kirk Cameron's butthole today.
I knew it was going to happen.
Is the 80s the most clean-shaven decade?
I think it is.
It's really up there.
I think so.
They were still, obviously, like we saw in Magnum, they were still doing some mustaches, but largely clean-shaven.
You wouldn't see any beards, really, or goatees, and all perms. Maybe that's why they're like, our hair's too high and big.
And the goatee really was a 90s invention.
It was, yeah, and it didn't survive the 90s, really, even. And I guess can't say forever, but I can't see it coming back.
I feel like that's now a Southerner with a truck kind of facial hair. Like that. Those are the only people who do that. Guys who are like, I work 80 hours a week at the toilet factory, and then on the weekends I drink beer and drive my truck.
I think we're 2 years max from Gen Z hipster reappropriation of goatees.
Okay. Well, they are doing mustaches
High-waisted pantses, mustaches, band t-shirts of bands I liked when I was a kid that they haven't heard. I'm not complaining about that. I'm glad they're buying those shirts.
Sure.
When they're wearing them like real huge like you would in 1990. I feel like we're close to goatees.
The main part about this scene right before Mike leaves is we learn his curfew is 1 a.m. And there's a whole thing where he tries to tell him in a smooth talking way that, I'll be home by that time. I'm responsible and you can trust me. And we learn that the parents don't trust him and they always wait up. One of them waits up. So there's a joke of, is it your turn or mine?
Surprised about this very generous curfew?
That's a late curfew.
Yeah.
Especially for the 80s, right? If you give a kid a 1 a.m. curfew in 1987, you are saying, go do cocaine. If you're and this is a well-to-do family.
Yeah, I did notice that because that seems late enough to where it's kind of like, you might as well just let him choose his own time if it's going to be 1 o'clock. That's pretty nice.
And I'm having trouble already at this point in the show. And I can't tell you if it's because I already have my own preconceived notions of Kirk Cameron, but I really struggle to buy into the cutesy stuff. His like, come on, Dad, I'll be home when I get home because of aliens or whatever bullshit. I don't like it.
This is what I was talking about in that he has like a certain energy to him. Like he's trying. And I feel like a lot of these actors aren't in these 80s shows. They don't have that certain like, they are giving it their all. Like he's not nervous and he's giving it his all. But he is a youth group performer. He does not have the like pathos or polish to like make this completely work.
Yeah, I can't buy it, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't believe him doing it well, but I can see that he's doing it.
I was pretty
it.
fascinated by it because I came into it thinking I would see a more wooden, angry performer like I do in his modern content, and we'll see to close out this episode.
I have noticed that, especially in the opening scenes in this episode, by this point, when he's leaving for his night out with Eddie and Boner, he's already done the put his arm around his mom thing like 4 times, and he massages her arms, all like, don't worry about the fact that I'm actually a sleazeball. I'm going to fool you into thinking I'm nice sort of routine that he does over and over again in these. And he's already corrected himself when he says too much and put his arm around his mom and said, oh, you can trust me, I'm responsible, and then rubbed her shoulder. It's just over and over again with him doing that act. It's already too much.
Spencer, you pointed out this is the thing that he shares with the Zach Morris Saved by the Bell character, the come on quality.
Let me get away with it.
Yeah.
He's kind of like a sweet used car salesman.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Because they're selling you on something, but he's not malicious to a certain degree, but he is still trying to sell something. And Alan Thicke not having a voluptuous backside is a tragedy. I'm just putting it out there.
Well, we don't get the full
close up.
We don't know for sure, because he's wearing kind of those professional man clothes in these. So you don't know that. He might have more junk in the trunk than you think.
And that's why he didn't get too hurt when he slipped on the sour ball for the next episode. The cake saved
Matthew
him.
Perry couldn't handle that, but Alan Thicke was like, I don't give a shit.
Those things bounce off me.
Another part of this scene that I guess factors into the very, very weak and unnecessary B plot here is that Ben's sitter Trudy does come over anyway, despite them not needing her. And because she's a little girl and her parents are out, she can't be taken home. So she is just part of the Seavers Friday night now with whatever they're choosing to do.
She maybe should have had a bigger share of the plot. She was very sassy.
She had a face that was like, all right, I can see why you're in a sitcom. Like, I got it, even at a young age.
Even though she's like 8 or whatever, she came in and was like controlling the scene pretty well.
Absolutely. I
could have her
agree
instead
with
of
you.
Ben. Yeah. She would have been way better.
Yes.
As I put in my notes, is like, this is an opportunity for them to shoehorn one more character into this episode, essentially. And yeah, we're hardly going to get any more of this part of the Seavers and Trudy alone in the house. The rest of the episode is what we're going to get into here, which is Mike, Eddie, and Boner. They're hanging out at some local restaurant and they're trying to determine their plans for the evening, which I didn't write down all of them. The first couple is like, what is it? Bowl your brains out for 99 cents or something?
Yeah, that's a great name for a bowling event. You couldn't use it now, but it is clever.
We would have done it a lot when we were younger.
You would have bowled your brains out.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I technically already did, my friend.
They could have gone a teenage fish fry also.
That's the other one. Okay.
Yeah, that smells great.
But the winner of this whole, this big night out they're going to have is Mike when he says we could go drive up to a drive-in Swedish movie and lip read it, which Eddie and Boner are like, that's really dumb. And then Mike's like, it's Swedish. And that changes it. Eddie and Boner are suddenly like, yeah, we're going to do this now.
Touché, Mike. Eddie and Boner have your side.
I'm assuming that's because they assume there's nudity.
I think so. Around the time, if you were to say something is European, that would mean
they're all nude.
Yeah, because those crazy Europeans, you're not going to believe this. They're okay with the human form and with sex.
How dare they?
But they don't like guns that much. It's kind of weird, right?
Stupid. And did you guys know that Muppet bit from the 70s, I think it is, that we all know with the song, the Menomina.
Yeah.
Do. That was taken from a Swedish pornography that Jim Henson had seen. That was the theme. It was a little different.
Did Dr. Teeth himself take it?
He did. He took it right out of there and then Menomina. And they did that thing. Yeah.
So people had sex to Menomina.
Yeah.
Of course.
Other than me.
Yeah. Beaker was there. That sort of thing.
And
Dr. Benson Honeydew.
Yes, that's what I love him.
You are Dr. Bunsen.
I love that guy. He just fucks around in there with his little popped up hair and his glasses.
And then the Swedish chef is Swedish porn.
Oh, yeah.
He fucks.
You know what he says when he does it?
What?
Dirty, dirty, dirty. Isn't that what he says normally about everything?
Yeah, that sort of thing.
You guys are making me wish we'd gotten to follow up on that plot thread where they go to see the Swedish movie. Well, that too. Anything but what's about to happen, which really cool older kid who's just super cool comes into this pizza restaurant that they are about to leave, swaggers right by him, goes up to the counter, gets his 8 pizzas for like $67 or something.
8 larges for $74.50.
What
Pretty
a
good
deal. Do you think those pizza boxes had anything in them?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Kirk Cameron could lift them. No.
They were careful to make one of them greasy. So they put there's a little bit of set work
I actually
in
like that. I like the set dressing of this college bar. I like that this cool older kid that they know, who by the way, his name is Roland.
Roland Taylor.
I like that he has a perm and the fucking sweater thing and he is an 80s
Did you think he was
prep.
Pretty cool when he came in?
I
like,
thought,
holy shit.
I was like, this is a yuppie. They did a good job.
The casting director did a great job picking someone who looks like they've done a lot of coke.
Yeah.
And seeing all these people in this scene, I thought at first the little boy, not Brian, I want to call him Brian, Bob, Ben. We'll get there.
Okay.
The little boy Ben was going to be the unsettling looking character. Both Boner and Eddie both kind of give me like uncanny valley reactions to people. I don't know why. Something about him, I'm just like, monkey brain says, watch out for Boner.
I thought this too, and some of this is just such awkward costuming.
Yeah.
Eddie has a weird mullet.
Yeah, it's some kind of altered mullet.
It's not even a
Band
mullet.
name right there. Amazing band
It's
name.
really slicked down in the front or something. I don't.
And then Boner does have what you guys were talking about. He's got very much so the New York kind of face and expression and accent, and he's supposed to be kind of dim.
Boner could be an errand boy for the mob, probably. And he's wearing like a checked shirt with a vest over it. Everything about it screams, I've been to the docks recently.
And it's not a mullet for Eddie. It's basically like a rat tail that is not tied.
That's
Okay.
perfect.
So it's down.
Rat tail, it's a thick rat tail.
Yeah.
But
Right, there you go.
I didn't think about that until you said it, but
And
you're
his
right.
hair at the top, though, is not thick and permed like some of the other characters.
It's greasy and
And I
short.
think that's weird for the 80s.
It looks like if you didn't see the back, it would look normal, sort of, like
Right.
the top part of it. So I think that is a big part of what's wrong with Eddie and Boner. But I agree, all those scenes, and even Mike to a degree when they're at that party, is just like, what am I looking at?
Yeah.
In most of this episode.
I think anyone in the 80s with curly hair like Kirk Cameron had, so lucky. Because your hair just curls out, and that looks natural. Because it is. You don't have to go get it permed.
You don't have to oil it up like
Yeah.
everyone else does. Fucking Boner.
So Cokehead Roland Taylor actually seems relatively pleased to see Mike and Eddie and Boner. Like, I mean, obviously they're not friends. It's very clear this is a guy who recently graduated from their high school who was very popular, and he's nice and he's friendly, but he doesn't really know him. And they're thinking like, what is Roland getting 8 pizzas for $74.55?
How many Swedish movies is he going to see?
What is he up to? And they're so curious to know what is going on for Roland tonight. He's having this big Friday night. And of course, Roland, being a cooler, older guy, decides that they can come with him because that's how that interaction would have gone.
I actually liked that because that is not.
You would think the TV show would be afraid to go that route because it's too easy for them to usher in that plotline with him being like, sure, come on.
I do wonder, though, if it wasn't easy at the time because all those teen comedies like your Porky's and your Ridgemont Highs and your all that, it's always like the bullies would always tell them no, or the cool kids. And in this scenario, this cool guy is like, whatever, you can come to my party. Again, I'm doing my thing here. But in my mind, the showrunners were thinking, of course, Roland would not have time of day for these younger dweebs normally, but he's already been doing coke. And he's in a really good mood, and he's psyched up and happy to see people he recognizes. And he's like, sure, you can come to the party. So that's my reading into the scene that is not intended.
I can add a little.
Okay.
He's also out of high school now. And so he doesn't get the constant followers following him around.
He's not big
praising
dogging
him.
like he used to.
Bingo. So he sees these kids who worship the ground he walks on, and he says, yeah, come follow me. You'll be my little sparrows.
I like
Treat
this.
me like a king.
Big fish, small pond.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that whole thing. Also, his name is 2 different musical equipment companies, Roland and Taylor.
Do you think that because he was just going full bore, having a great time, he decided to just keep on rolling?
My concern about this scene
Uh-huh.
is that I'm not sure that that's a very good description of like having a big cocaine bender. I'm gonna go get a bunch of pizzas. It just doesn't seem like it fits the drug.
Well, actually, this whole thing is not nearly lascivious enough for what the show is putting it out to be. It's like it seems like a pizza party where everyone's nice.
I did not get the sense that Roland was supposed to be up to something nefarious.
No.
I thought it was going to be something with girls or whatever, and they would have a good time, but I didn't think it was going that direction where it's going to go.
Because if he was really on coke or whatever, he wouldn't be getting pizzas. He'd be like, you guys got to hear my new idea. My idea is so good. I invented a pillow, but it's big. It's a pillow that you can take wherever you want because big pillows are necessary.
You
because
can't just-
I like pillows.
Roland, you can't just tell me the life story of the My Pillow guy. He does coke and invents a big pillow.
I'm not sure the party would have cared if they're all in there just doing coke. I don't think any of them would probably eat for maybe a couple days.
No, just put you in a great mood.
They wouldn't care about this feast of pizza, which, by the way, doesn't make an appearance in the episode, I have to say.
Disappointed.
Nobody
This is just
eats
like
any
in
of that
Friends when they
pizza.
don't have the cat show up. I want to see cats. I want to see pizzas.
You want to see this plot come to fruition
Yes.
here.
I want to watch Roland and Boner sit down and eat a whole pizza.
I also have a thought, too, with regard to why Roland let them come, is that I don't know that Okay, Eddie and Boner maybe, but I don't know that Mike is necessarily like the bottom of the barrel social class. I think they're just average.
Yeah.
So sometimes the average people are allowed to
I think Mike
mingle
is one of those bridge guys
Yes.
that, like, he's nice to everybody and he's outgoing enough that the cool kids are like, fine. Because if there's anything I've learned, even as an adult, the worst thing you can have in terms of acceptance is just being an introvert like the three of us are. If you are just loud and out there, people will be okay with you eventually.
I'll be honest. I think what's going on here, since we've given our takes on the scene, is Roland is sick of this party. He wants it to end.
Okay.
Best way to end a party is to invite Kirk Cameron.
Oh, God, yes.
Let alone Eddie and Boner. In this show's world, they seem not capable of being in a big room surrounded by people.
The scene fades to a break when they do get permission to come, but it's a real quick commercial, and it picks right back up where they're at this party destination. And now that we are seeing the room with our own eyes, we get the sense it's some sort of rich person, almost like a high school country club sort of gathering is what I got out of it.
Again, so yuppie-fied, so 80s. We talked about this with a lot of 90s shows, and 70s, but the era and time and place really came through for me here.
Mike inquires, just whose house is this? And Roland's like, I don't know. I don't give a shit. And he leaves. He's going in there to do his coke, and although we don't know that yet, he's going to do some coke and eat some pizza, and we don't get to see any of that like we talked about. Mike and Eddie get together in private and whisper about who's who at this party, and it's a big deal. There are just babes everywhere. There's Lana. My daddy gave me a Porsche for my birthday fair day over there, and look, there's Henry and Peter, and oh my God, that's John Simpson.
Holy fucking shit, John Simpson's here?
It's a big deal. This is like the Hall of Fame of their high school, and it's all
2
sitting
years
here.
from right now, 1987, his whole family's going to have an animated show that's going to storm the nation.
Eddie panics. He's like, this is way too cool for us. We've got to get out of here. Mike says, no, we can run with this hot crowd. And he does have that exact line. They decide they comfort each other just enough to go ahead and tough it out, and they're going to make this work.
I liked Eddie's realization of like, oh, this is not for us. We're dorks.
The duo, now that they're pumped up and ready to do their thing at the party, finds Boner admiring some kind of naked bust on the stairs.
Yeah, that's what he gravitates to, is some statue that's naked-ish. It didn't even have nipples.
No, it wasn't provocative at all. This is where they're all gathered on the stairs, and we're about to meet Stairway Hottie, because Mike and Eddie are reprimanding Boner for being so lewd at this classy place, where a sultry teenager lady passes them on their way down the stairs and gives them all a little suggestive look and just gets everyone real horny just on sight.
So this is Rhonda, who I had in my notes, who's played by Kristy Swanson, who was pretty famous in the 80s. She was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, later was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The most notable things I wanted to mention about Kristy Swanson's acting career, though, is a strange coincidence that she played a character in Dude, Where's My Car named Christy Boner.
Oh, wow.
Strange coincidence. Also, then later she, when her acting career began to tail off with age, she started starring in things called Obamagate the Movie. So you can kind of get a sense again of where she might have gone.
Maybe she was friends with the Kirk Cameron.
Yeah, probably.
Huh.
So Mike wants them to start their engines at seeing Stairway Hottie here. I guess that means get all revved up to fuck. Boner runs to the bathroom, only to be stonewalled by a preppy kid in a sweater vest. Guys, we've got a bozo alert.
Hey, wait your turn, bozo.
It's been a while since we've had a bozo.
Yeah, it has.
That's a rule I'm going to make official if you guys didn't already know. If you hear bozo in your shows, it's got to be a clip. We got to put it on.
I like that, and it happens more than you'd think.
I remember, of course, Silk Stockings, Bozo of the Week.
Is
it just Spencer shows?
Guess so.
Oh, so you got Grandma,
Although
you got Bozo?
Pick either
no,
one of
it's
those.
Spencer shows that I picked for him specifically.
You, for some reason, giving me bozo shows.
I go on IMDb, filter, Bozo.
Can you play it again? I want to hear him say bozo again.
Hey, wait your turn, bozo.
That kid's got a couple lines where he's shutting all the boys down for being dweebs or whatever, and he's the goofiest looking guy. He's kind of got the mullet, and he does the sweater vest thing, and it's just, he's so awkward looking, and he's supposed to be tough, I think.
80s yuppie.
Yeah, I'm not feeling it. It's at this point, when Boner is not allowed access to the bathroom, that we see several kids leaving it together, which Boner is understandably confused about. He returns to Mike and Eddie and says, I guess rich kids go to the bathroom together. Meanwhile, Mike's moving in on Stairway Hottie Rhonda. He opens with the line, "You look just like a movie star." And Stairway Hottie wants to know which one. Mike he didn't think that far, which would never happen, but he just says, well, the real sexy one. And she's having some fun with this now. So she's like, oh, yeah, you mean like Rob Lowe?
She looks just like Rob Lowe, too.
And that's what Mike says. He's like, yeah, that one. And then he realizes that he's being really dumb.
He couldn't even name Demi Moore, a woman from the Brat Pack. You know, that group of 80s young actors that were so famous.
Rob Lowe is kind of a good choice for this because of the cocaine connection. I think he had a little nose candy issue for a while.
Yeah, I'm sure they all did.
I didn't know
era.
that, but famous in the 80s.
Yeah, it makes sense. So Mike's really frazzled by this whole thing because obviously he was not trying to say that she looked like Rob Lowe, but fortunately that is all it really took for him to impress Rhonda. She's like, oh, that's so cute that you didn't really even have an actual person in mind when you were telling me that I was attractive. And then we've seen this chemistry showcase itself, and Rhonda says, hey, you want to go to the John?
You want to poop together?
Well, that's what Mike thinks she's saying. So he's like, well, no, you can do that, and I'll just wait for you out here. She giggles at Mike's confusion and says like, oh yeah, no, you probably just worried I'm after your stash. This is on me, don't worry.
And Kirk Cameron's like, my stash of Bibles? You can't have them.
My mustache? We've already established I can't grow one.
She then dangles a little vial of cocaine on a chain that is connected, I guess, to some, like her wrist.
I think it might have been on her necklace or bracelet.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty cool.
I have never seen this kind of showcasing of drugs before.
Me either. And this is another horny little box boy thing for me where I'm like, look at this container. Essentially, and how stealthy it is.
I liked it. Yeah.
It's very small.
It's a vial.
Yeah, it's a tiny little vial, and it doesn't even look like very much, although I guess it's probably plenty of coke. I don't know. But it's just a tiny little thing, and she dangles it in his face, and it's like, no, I got this. We're going to snort this.
We're going to put this up your little teen idol nose.
Up your butthole.
Yeah, she says it's my treat. This party rules. I would love to be at this party. If I were here, I would have blown my septum out hours ago.
I would have died. I love the whole concept, though, that she thinks, Kirk Cameron, like, oh, he probably just doesn't want he doesn't have much. He doesn't want to waste it. That's his concern. Don't worry, I'll lend you some.
And Mike finally sees what's going on here with the bathroom activity and what they're really doing at this party. And he shuts down immediately at this point. And Rhonda gets a little concerned. She's like, hey, what aren't you cool? Mike says, yeah, I've got to go to the bathroom. That's what we're doing. And he's really at this point at a loss, but he gets bailed out because Lana, my daddy bought me a Porsche Faraday, comes over and says, hey, Rhonda, your parents are on the phone long distance. Which, this is Rhonda's house. This is Rhonda's parents' house. Why is Lana answering the phone? If anything, it should be Ben answering their phone.
This could be a thing like, Van, you could have answered my phone when we were kids.
Wouldn't know.
If you were over there. You could have just done it.
Never.
No one would have thought anything of it.
Sure. It could be that perhaps Lana was what her parents, like maybe they knew Lana was there and the rest of it was just her doing this.
Yeah, these are high school kids.
They're probably
like
saying they're having a sleepover.
Yeah.
It's hard though when I was watching this episode to even know whose house this was and why Lana's answering it.
They hadn't even set up to
We
this
don't
point.
know. Yeah. We only because I went back and put all these facts together for the listeners' benefit are we even sure who Rhonda is. She just
Stairway
It's a lot like Memento.
I've done a great service to our audience here. I've made this episode make more sense for you so you know what's happening in Growing Pains.
Because it's so full of depth that you have to watch it 4, 5, 7 times to really get everything.
Yeah, and
it's like Rashomon. You see every perspective and they all fold into one at the end. You have to decide what you think.
I should mention with all that depth, we're already like halfway through and we have like 2 more scenes now. And then we're done. So this buys Mike a little time to figure out how to get out of this little predicament while Rhonda goes and talks to her parents. So he immediately confides to Lana, not realizing that she knows all about this, and says, oh my God, Lana, Jesus Christ, people are snorting coke here like crazy.
He starts out with don't freak, which is such an 80s thing to say.
And Lana loves that. And she says, well, I hope there's coke here. That's
I laughed
why
at
I'm
this.
here.
I thought this was fun. It's not supposed to be either. The studio audience stays dead quiet, like this is gravely serious. But when she says, well, I should hope so, I thought that was great because she's assuming everyone came here for that reason.
Yeah, and she says, you're funny, thinking he's joking. That is not something people say to Kirk Cameron often.
No.
Mike's frantic now. He rushes back to his pals and says, hey, look, guys, this is a cocaine party. Boner's big takeaway is that this means, so they don't go in the bathroom together normally. It's because it's a cocaine party.
That's another thing I thought was funny. The assumption that this is a rich people thing, they all pee together. Pretty funny.
At this point, the group unanimously agrees that they actually aren't interested in the cocaine. But Eddie and Boner are so interested in Lana, whose dad bought her a Porsche. They're so interested in Lana in the hot tub that they're thinking, okay, no, I don't care about coke, but I'm not going to leave because of it.
To the point we talked about earlier with Eddie and Boner, they are portrayed as nerds. This is a world unforetold to them,
Pretty realistic.
But they are excited for it, whereas Mike is terrified. They're at least like, hell yeah, I'll try this. Why not?
I'm going to tell you guys something right now about me.
Yeah, you would have
I
been
would have been Kirk Cameroning the fuck out of this. It wouldn't have been for the same reasons, which was often misunderstood in my youth. My reasons would be I cannot ever be in trouble or confronted. So like any sort of risque party, I would have been like, we got to go home. Not for the same reasons, but I can relate to the anxiety aspect of it.
Sure.
That's not what this is, though. And Kirk Cameron is portrayed as brave and outspoken because of his moral opposition, which I am not saying teenagers should be doing cocaine. Your brain doesn't work yet and no one should. Yeah, but what I'm saying is the way the show portrays Mike's character as like this crusader is, I mean, the real first whiff of, oh yeah, this is Kirk Cameron.
Yeah, because looking back on it, we can see that. We have the luxury of hindsight in this scenario.
And this is when his acting becomes not fun anymore. Earlier on, I'm not saying it's good, but like I had mentioned, I did find it, effortful in a way that was pleasing. And here, he turns into serious actor Kirk Cameron. He does not have the chops for that.
I still think the part that you like of him is not so much him acting. I think that was just his natural persona when he wants to be a charming douchebag.
I agree. And that's kind of what I'm saying in terms of just, I like the effort. Like, I like the whatever spirit is there. It's not necessarily the performance itself.
But it is admirable that the effort is being put forth.
In this process of Mike talking to Eddie and Boner, when Eddie and Boner are like, we should go ahead and stay. I mean, I don't want to do coke either, but it's not that big a deal. And Mike says, Lana's one of them. Lana's doing this too. Everyone here is dangerous. We got to get out. I just can't believe that this is happening. And it's really Eddie who takes up the other end of the argument. Mike's saying we got to go. Eddie's saying we don't really need to go. Boner's right caught in the middle between them. So Eddie and Mike are kind of going back and forth here.
Whoa, Mike, a lot of cool people use cocaine. Come on, Eddie, that stuff is killing people. It's not gonna hurt us if we use it just this one time with Lana and her female friends. Yeah. Look, guys, I'm sure that everybody who's been screwed up by that drug, they felt the same way the first time. Yeah. And you're saying we're that wishy-washy.
It appears that Mike has won when we hear that discussion, that part of the discussion. But the argument they're all having is, look, I mean, I don't mind leaving, but we're going to look stupid. Everyone's going to make fun of us. They're going to be like, those guys were too afraid to do coke at that party.
Yeah, the peer pressure argument. I think that Mike should have they should have had Mike's character do what a realistic teen would do. And I say this from experience. As I mentioned, I was a wet blanket teen. So it would have been something way more anxious and almost irritated and angry, because I feel like that's what Mike should have been. He should have been like, we got to go. I'm not comfortable. It shouldn't have been, I am already 50 and wise, and I know the long-term damage this will do to us.
Yeah, I mean, kids at that point don't have control over their emotions, so they would be sparking out. I sincerely doubt Mike would be doing, as you say, and being the sage, wise
like
old
with
wizard.
This long-term worldview, like in this moment, you would feel too much pressure of the situation, I would think.
It'd be pretty overwhelming, too, because he did want to fit in here like 5 seconds ago. And he likes all these girls just as much as Eddie and Boner do.
And I don't have a problem with the character deciding to leave. I believe I would have done that in this situation. But the way he leaves it with his head high, I don't like it. It's too sitcom-y.
He's about got him to just kind of sneak out. And then at that point, Roland yells from across the room. He's got 6 people from Mike's high school at the party, and they all wave. They recognize Mike, like, hey, Seaver. And the group is far away in the other part of the camera shot, way in the other side of the scene. To me, that's like a juxtaposition between, so we've got Eddie Boner and Mike close to the door on one side. And then we got the coke snorters on the other side, and they're they're all like devil red, and they've got they got the horns, and they're all covered in cocaine, and they're waving maliciously from the corner like, "Hi, Mike."
How much better would the show be if they portrayed it that way?
That would be like a Doug thing where it's briefly not really what happened.
Like a surrealist view of what Mike sees.
The temptation physically manifested.
That is absolutely what the sense I got from that scene was, even if it really is just like, oh, now people recognize us, we can't leave.
Even if it really is just, we couldn't afford to hire 6 more extras.
Well, here's John Simpson again.
So these cool cocaine snorters in the corner smash together with their arms around each other, call to him by name, and he's been outed. If he leaves, his reputation will be in tatters. So now it's really a problem. And this is a great time for a cliffhanger here. Let's go back to that lazy B plot. The rest of the Seavers are having that dumb Friday night doing whatever they're doing with Trudy. And we don't see exactly what they're watching.
But they're into it.
On their live. Oh my God, are they ever? We don't see what it is, but it's a bunch of gun noises, something intense. And actually, it's really Trudy, Ben, and Carol who are especially on the edge of their seats, just really getting into this. Jason's kind of like, this is fine, but I'm also just going to kind of look around at everyone while we're watching, which is a strange thing to do. Meanwhile, Maggie enters with another round of food, and this time it's her special hot mock apple pie.
What is that?
I looked it up. It's not really apple. Yeah, I guess
Why?
It's a health
Apples
thing.
are everywhere and cheap.
Yeah, they made it out of, I think, probably crackers, I think is a common way.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so that explains.
Cracker pie is the worst sounding thing I've ever heard.
That's where you get the crunch. So,
yeah, and then you're desperate for any sort of liquid. Fucking saltines in your pie?
Now you see why Alan Thicke is so concerned in this scene when he finally gets his hands on this pie.
I bet this was fucking hilarious and topical in 1987. I bet wives across America were plopping mock apple pies down on the dinner table. From the microwave, the new technology.
The family waves her off angrily and shushes her because this thing on TV is so good. She wants to know, well, what is this? What's going on? Did I miss something making this mock apple pie? And Ben says, so the Colombian cartel has these mules running a half-ton of uncut snow in the Miami pipeline. Probably street value of 16 million big ones here.
This could be funny.
It could have been.
If they had a capable little boy actor.
Instead, this is some real Stewie shit.
Yeah, ooh, don't say that. Makes it worse.
Get this away from me.
Well, and then there's Carol butting
in. I know about adult problems.
There's Carol butting in with, that seems high or low. What she disagrees with his valuation of the street coke, which again, it's there. What they were going for just didn't work.
Those sorts of lines, if you have Al Pacino read them, it goes better.
Hooah!
There's 20 pounds of uncut coke. I'm the devil.
I just had a baby at 80 years old.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Al Pacino could have been in that coke party too. He could have been
right
there.
He would have. Those teenagers.
They could have had it in him.
Like a coke pinata, like a living pinata.
Say hello to my little friend, and then it's boner.
Oh, I'm a method actor.
Method actor.
I played Scarface. I figured it's time to be like that forever.
I love Adam Sandler. Right? Isn't he in an Adam Sandler movie?
I did not know that. I was just going to keep going.
Good for you.
So Maggie decides all this coke and possibly Al Pacino that we've decided isn't a very appropriate thing for the family gathering and for Trudy. So she's like, let's watch a Disney movie, Cinderella, blah, blah, blah. Jason takes over the scene with not liking the pie in the background.
It on a plate?
And looks mad. Like he actually seems like he wants to kind of hurt Maggie with the pie.
Well, because his wife just handed him a plate of pie full of crackers. Mm-hmm. That is an offense.
Well, when you put it that way, yeah. Trudy's parents arrive to pick her up, and she haughtily demands payment for those services that she provided while sitting here this whole time.
Good. She deserves it.
Yeah, she showed up for a shift just because they didn't have any work for her. That's not her problem.
I love the Trudy support here from the get-go.
But you know what? Alan Thicke, good guy. He pays her.
Yeah.
There's no argument. He just, you're right. You win, little girl. Here you go.
And he respects it, I think.
He fist bumps her.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate sign of respect. Not the fist bump with the that's offensive.
No, this is a business fist bump.
Mm-hmm.
Maggie pops the Disney movie in when Trudy goes, and that immediately sends Ben and Carol running off to the rooms. End of scene.
Good. We're done with that.
And basically end of story.
I mean, for the most part, yeah, because we go back to the cocaine, but I mean, okay, so they're trying to suggest, well, we revisited the Seavers, that the party is really starting to take off. I'm sure you guys noticed this. There's some kind of wild 80s electric guitar going on in the fake drums that are in every 80s song.
It is so funny. It's just picturing bad kids listening to this is just my favorite thing.
The guests are starting to get all fucked up. This party's lit. The stairway hottie comes back down the stairs again, giggling maniacally, and I'm telling you, I kept picturing that they wanted you to think these characters were just covered in cocaine, just head to toe. And
I wish
white.
they were. They had just like powder all around their
On
nose.
them.
Boner, we gotta leave before they grow their horns.
She has a little moment where she's just beside herself with glee, and she again crosses the boys on the stairs and says, I just think it's so funny to imagine how mad my parents would be if they knew the kind of party I was having here. And Mike's like, well, yeah, this is a horrible party and you're a terrible person. He doesn't say it, but it's on his face. And she's like, yeah, because you see, it's their Coke. Big deal for Mike somehow.
It'd be a big deal for the parents.
Yeah.
Dad's Dwight Gooden.
That's how he could afford that Porsche for Lana. That was Lana's dad, but you know.
Recently won a Cy Young.
So Mike's had enough and decides to step in and speak up about this. I don't know why that it being her parents made him be like wanting to say something, but in any case, Eddie doesn't let him have that moment. He's like, what he's wanting to say is that I'm Eddie and this is Boner. And Rhonda's fine. She's like, yeah, cool.
Those are real names.
Let's all. It doesn't have to just be you and me, Mike. Let's all go in the bathroom and snort this Coke. We'll make it a group toot.
Okay.
I had to say it with a straight face.
This must have been a real term.
I guess.
I love it. I want to bring it back, and I would like it to mean farting all at once.
Well, the three of us have had some group toots.
Yeah, I have to think so.
I was worried for a little bit that I wasn't hearing that right because I've never heard group toot. I Googled it, didn't get much of a response from Google. So I'm not convinced it happened outside of Growing Pains.
I kind of wonder if this is a sort of like sheltered, middle-aged Hollywood writers who lazily churn out 24 sitcom episode scripts a year are like, what do the kids call this or whatever?
Group toot.
And then they like asked some grandma and she said, it's a group toot.
Apparently that's what you call going to the bathroom to do cocaine together in the 80s. So she calls for Lana and they giggle about how they're going to go to the hot tub, but not before snorting Coke, because as good as the hot tub looks now, just wait till you see what it looks like after we go to the bathroom. Like, wait till you see that hot tub after you get some Coke in you.
Yeah, that's what you want when you're on a stimulant, is to sit in something relaxing.
Boner's apparently, we learn he's wearing trunks under his shorts, and he mentions how
above his boner, though.
how excited he is that they're going to be going to the hot tub because he's already dressed for that.
I don't know why I thought that was funny, that he ran out of underwear and put on swim trunks.
That sounds like a teenage boy thing.
Yeah.
I do that.
I actually mistook that line at first. I thought he was saying, this is so hot, I'm erect, and my trunks are hiding it better than like regular underwear would. Because I mean, his name is Boner, and they were all looking at the girls hungrily in this part of the scene.
I understand why you would think.
Sure.
But no, it's just like he's a dork who is accidentally pre-dressed for the hot tub event, is all they're saying there. Just as the group is all about to go to the bathroom together once and for all, wouldn't that have been an interesting turn if Mike was like, fuck it, I'm going to get high.
Yeah, let's group toot.
The one final obstacle. This is Eddie and Boner are so excited. This is the one thing they have to do to get in the hot tub with Lana is snort a little Coke. The episode's pivotal moment takes place. Eddie pleads for Mike, please let us have this. Don't do what you are going to do. And Rhonda realizes Mike is not into this, and she decides it's time to call him out. And of course, the whole party stops and turns, because that's how these events go in shows.
They turn the music off.
Everything comes to a screeching halt, and she says, Mike, what's going on here? Is something wrong? And Mike stalls for a little bit, says he's just not in the mood. And then that sweater vest bozo guy says, look, if you guys aren't going to use the John, it's time for us to go. I'm pretty sure sweater vest bozo guy has just only been sitting in front of the bathroom this whole party.
Yeah, what an instigator.
Just go do it in the kitchen. You don't have to do cocaine in the bathroom. In fact, I would not like to do that. There's particles in the bathroom.
Why do you have to go to the bathroom to snort it?
See, that was confusing for me too. I would understand that if they were trying to keep it secret, but everyone here knows.
Yeah.
It's pretty open. And you know what else you can do if you need to kill a little time is you can go eat one of Roland's slices of pizza. There's like 80 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no one's interested. Coke famously doesn't make you that hungry, I don't think. Like, isn't that its whole reputation?
Yeah, that's the part that bothered me, is it would make sense if they were all getting the munchies or something and they wanted pizza afterwards. Rhonda shushes sweater vest bozo and says, shut up. Mike and I are having this conversation here. There's no putting this off any longer, so Mike says, look, I've never done coke before. And this diffuses the tension right away. Like, everyone's giggling, they're laughing. The girls think this is great because they thought he was going to be a dumb narc, but really he's just scared because he's a coke virgin.
Little did Rhonda know she is talking to a historical narc in Kirk Cameron. Yeah.
The OG narc.
Capital NARC, narc.
The C in narc stands for Cameron.
They're going to help him ease into this gently. It's no big deal. They'll make it a great first experience for him. And Eddie and Boner relax too because they think, okay, this is going to work after all. But no, Mike stands firm and says, look, I know everyone's watching me right now and this is a spectacle, but I don't want to do coke. I'm just going to say it directly. I don't want to do it. And at this point, everyone's going to go ahead and accept his decision, but they think it's really funny and they think he's a big nerd. So they're laughing at him, and he's really ruined the event officially for the group now. So at this point, Mike is rattled. He's relieved, but he feels very embarrassed by this whole thing. And he says, this is awkward. Let's get out of here. So Eddie and Boner are like, yeah, we can't go yet. They're going to think we're weenies.
They are. They're weenies. There's never been a better term to describe Kirk Cameron, Boner, and Eddie than weenies.
What? Boner, that basically says weenie.
When did Boner become the word for a weenie?
I don't know, because, obviously...
No one was saying that in, World War II.
No, they thought it meant mistake.
Like Merkel's
boner, the baseball event.
Oh,
you know what? I just read about again.
Don't you feel like that had to have been when all those kind of things, when people
90s.
started saying...
Yeah.
Yeah, like it had to have been in that era, when all sorts of made-up words just happened.
What's your favorite slang term for a dick?
Well, I've never really been...
You got pee-pee,
a big
pecker.
dick slang guy.
Well, recently, as you guys have known from the podcast, I've been very pro-hog.
Hog is good.
But pecker is really fun because it seems severe and outdated.
It's one that's aggressive, but also it's just pecker. It's not that aggressive.
Yeah. It just sounds so old. Like if you're saying it, your skin is creased.
What were you given permission as children to use? Mine was pee-pee.
This just came to me, but when I was a kid, my mom would use the word goober.
Oh, that's right. I remember this.
So when I was a kid, it was goober is what I would refer to a dick, particularly mine. I don't know that I talked about other people's goobers, but who knows? Do you have one, Brian?
My family to this date makes it a strict policy to be completely sexless.
Yeah, trying to just don't think or
just
talk about
act like it doesn't exist. Don't talk about it. It's not part of your life. It's just... It causes a problem to where you get older and you're like, wait, was I supposed to have sex at some point? I don't know. It's the weirdest thing. My parents did some things right. My mom did plenty right. But something about sexual education, there was none. So it was just like, I didn't even probably think about having one until I was 15. And then I was like, penis.
That fits with Brian Vaughn, too. I must use the technical term.
So Mike's ready to go. He's embarrassed, but he's at least ready to get out of there. And Eddie and Boner aren't giving up their hot tub moment that easily, though. And this is very disappointing to Mike, but they decide after debating it for a little while that they're going to go ahead and stay. They don't think the cocaine's that big a deal. So this leaves Mike to make his moral stand, which defines the episode, alone. He storms out and leaves them behind. Immediately, though, when he's gone, Boner and Eddie talk about how, well, Boner says this. It's his line to Eddie is that I'm confused because we think Mike's being stupid right now, but we've known Mike forever since the first grade, and he's not stupid, Eddie. He's cool.
He's the coolest person we've ever known, Kirk Cameron.
And if he's doing this, does that mean we're not cool?
So you have a little bit of the doubt there, and then to sow the choice that they have to make in the viewer's mind, we get Lana and Rhonda walking by them one last time on the way to the hot tub in the bathroom to say, well, boys, are you in or are you out? And that is the scene right there.
When Kirk Cameron storms off in a huff in this scene, he leaves the door open. The first time I watched this, I couldn't focus on anything else other than someone shut the fucking door. And no one does. The front door just wide open.
He shuts it. It's just slow. He really does. Yeah, he really does.
Okay. But for the longest time.
It takes too long. I think he was debating as an actor whether to slam it or not, but it comes across as relatively gentle when he leaves.
Actually, on accident, I mentioned before I wanted him to come across more petulant, and he does at the end here, but not soon enough. The whole scene should have been played that way, because anytime I think about things that I thought were moral stances that I did as a young person or even now, They were more just I was anxious and I acted like a little turd.
Wrapping this episode up here, we have to conclude with what the moral lesson did for Mike and what he learned from it. So we go back to the Seavers residence for that, and it's Jason, of course, who got the duty of staying up to wait for Mike. He's in the darkened living room. It's clearly much later than it's supposed to be. And
I would like to add, just darkened living room Jason. It's not
I
Jason.
waited for it. I knew it was coming up.
I hadn't done it yet.
is this where I do my thing where I say he's
You
got
say
a
chainsaw.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
And then you say that's Leatherhead, and I say, well, I can't remember that.
Leatherhead uses crayfish as weapons.
I mean, this is how it goes.
'Cause
So
he's
this
an
is every
alligator.
time.
When he's not fucking face deep in a bowl of Uncle Ben's.
And by the way, the episode that he first showed up in the Ninja Turtles show, there's like a ninja gang of frogs that are Cajun, and they're
What?
like a different team. And Leatherface captures them, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get them frogs with my crayfish." And he does. He catches them, and the turtles have to save the day.
That's awesome.
I love that in Ninja Turtles, if you were a reptile or amphibian, you're either a California surfer that lives in the sewer or you're a Cajun swamp beast.
One or the other. That's how it works, Brian. Did you never take a biology class?
I guess no, there's other stuff like robe-wearing instructive rat.
Can I tell you that in the theme song, which we all know and love, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, when they get to Donatello, the descriptor of what Donatello is he does machines.
Yeah, I do know that. I remember that. And to this day, I don't know why that was phrased that way.
So Leonardo leads.
Uh-huh.
Michelangelo is cool. No.
Raphael's cool.
Raphael's
isn't
cool but rude.
he? He's abrasive.
Michelangelo's a party dude.
No, Michelangelo is cool, but nice. Yeah, and Raphael's cool, but rude.
Right. And then Donatello does machines.
Yeah, he's more of the, like, dork.
And yes, but saying does machines doesn't necessarily convey that. Maybe it does. I don't know.
Leonardo operates the Google Calendar and reminds people of stuff, all
You
that.
shut the fuck up. He has swords at least.
No, he's cool. I'm not saying he's not. He's organized.
He keeps them on track, but he can back up. He's not just all words. He does the action.
This is the thing about the Ninja Turtles as a collective. They're all pretty cool in their own way.
Sure.
But Raphael's a badass. So he's kind of my favorite.
I looked up to Raphael as a kid. He said it like he meant it, man.
He's a real Donald Trump at the time.
No, you took it away. Now I hate him. Oh, and he was the red one.
What if then Leatherface got his hands on Donald Trump? That would be great.
Oh, God.
Pinch him real good with those crayfish.
Yeah.
He uses them as weapons.
What if Leatherhead got his hands on Donald Trump?
I'm going to drag you to the bottom of my swamp. That'd be awesome.
Leatherface. I don't know. What's the one that Mr. Leathers?
No, Leatherface, you got it right.
Okay.
Mr. Leathers is the least intimidating name. It's a guy with a belt is what that is.
Mr. Leathers actually runs an S&M club that they have to investigate in silk stockings at one point.
Oh, God. So in case, by the way, in this scene, in case we're not sure that Mike's late for his curfew, Alan Thicke gets up in the living room and says, 2:15, Mike, that's nice.
He just says it out loud.
To himself.
2:15.
Oh, nobody else is trying to sleep.
That's an hour and 15 minutes later than he was supposed to be.
Man, this show is very curfew-centered. Both episodes, all about curfews.
Alan Thicke, I've forgotten that his name is Jason apparently. Alan Thicke goes up to the door and decides he's going to wait. He's going to be right there when Mike comes in. And Mike tries to sneak in, of course, but because Alan Thicke is right there, he bumps right into him and immediately has to explain himself. He does do a little bit of the Mike thing of, the time changed. I'm not really late, essentially, is what he's trying to do. Jason says, okay, no, let's go talk about this or I'm going to ground you. It's going to be a big deal. You're going to be in trouble. Tell me what's going on.
And of course, he's being really sarcastic to Kirk Cameron, who clearly has an issue and is going through something, but Alan Thicke's had enough of it. And he says something like, well, tell me what the excuse is again. The gypsies get you again? And I just want to say, I would love to watch a show where a bunch of gypsies accost Kirk Cameron. That would be more interesting than this.
Anyone accosting Kirk Cameron. Sounds pretty fun.
Yeah, the conversation does open. The exact thing I worded it is what you said is the conversation starts with the tone of a sarcastic father who's sick of his rascal son's shit. He throws out a long list of what are clearly common excuses of why Mike didn't make his curfew, which is what Van just said. But then he does quickly realize that Mike is actually genuinely agitated about something. And kind of stops in the middle of it and is like, are you okay?
Good dad.
Yeah, he's likable here. Again, I think he's one of the more likable sitcom dads we've had.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Charming smile. I like him.
Mike says, look, Dad, can we talk as friends? Like, not as someone who can ruin my life, but someone who I can just confide in.
Not as someone whose actual son wrote that Blurred Lines song and got sued.
Then he proceeds to spill the beans, which is that he and his friends end up at a party where there's people doing cocaine. Jason tries to stay calm in the friend role, but he really can't help but freaking out a little bit when he hears the word cocaine.
Do you remember the Wonder Woman episode where
She does coke.
they kept...
She's spin around so much faster.
And then Gargantuar has some.
Well, because Gargantua did stuff so Steve or whatever the guy keeps going like, a gorilla? Just confounded? That's what Alan Thicke is with cocaine.
Yeah.
He's just like, cocaine? And he says it like a dozen times.
When he finally gets it out of him that he did not do it, Jason does immediately calm down, but you can tell he's visibly relieved.
You didn't do it, Mike? So you're just a weenie?
Go back there and do it.
Mike is, he's gone through a whole thing in his head and he's trying to walk his dad through that, which is like, I feel weird because I know I did the right thing, but I'm upset that no one else saw it that way. So it seems like
I need to be given reassurance that I did the right thing. I don't like that no one agreed that I'm right.
So Jason says, and
It's a big deal.
this is the only thing Jason has to say to make Kirk Cameron okay here is, well, you're happy with it. It's good for you, right?
Kirk Cameron says something to the effect of, I didn't please anyone, and Alan Thicke says, you pleased yourself. Kirk Cameron's not allowed to do that, I don't think.
That's why he's got a wife now.
She's...
Whom
She
he's
has-
never pleased.
Okay, there you go.
So yeah, the concept here is that Jason says like, well, you can't please everyone. He says, I didn't please anyone. You pleased you. Everything's good, right? I admire you. You're an amazing son. You're an amazing weenie, no coke doing son. And I think that you should sleep on it. And when you wake up in the morning, you're going to feel a lot better. And Mike's like, you know what, Alan Thicke, I love you. And he hugs him. And then right as he's getting ready to go to bed, this is the kind of the comedic end of the episode. Jason's like, oh, by the way, Eddie and Boner called for you. And they said they didn't go to the bathroom and they don't want to, which,
This is
part
pretty
of
funny.
context.
This is funny.
It kind of worked. And so Jason doesn't know what that means. And Mike doesn't tell him. He's just like, that means a lot. And he's really happy. And he goes upstairs. The audience cheers. They love that ending. End of episode. Sort of.
The audience is so excited. I put in here, the audience hoots for no group toots.
Damn it. I was going to do a group toot too.
So the episode's not exactly over though, is it, guys?
No.
I didn't know they did this in Growing Pains, but I know some of the shows around this time period especially did part PSA thing.
I felt like I was staring into someone's personal life too much here with this PSA, which is weird.
Yeah, interesting choice. So we go back to the party after the end cut scene, and they're back at the party with Roland and all the people there hanging out. I don't know, they're loitering in the living room and they're not really doing coke, but they're still the same setting.
This is the 80s thing of like, we're breaking kayfabe. Here are all the actors standing there, so these actors don't really endorse cocaine.
And they
You
all
had to do
stare
that back then.
so seriously into the camera together. And then who slides into the front of the scene, center of attention other than our hero, Kirk Cameron?
Brow furrowed, forehead sweaty and pissed.
Awkwardly shoving himself onto the table full of dinner, like
He practically
silverware.
sits on a fruit bowl.
He wouldn't care. He
There's
wouldn't even
a-
feel it.
There's a sloshy glass of wine that I kept worrying he was going to knock over when
It's
because
communion
he's
wine,
kinda
though. He can
sitting
have
there.
that.
Now, I wanted to have a listen to this, so I've got the end of his PSA for us here.
Look, I'm not trying to tell you how to live your lives, but I am telling you that you don't have to do something you don't want to just to keep your friends happy. I mean, if that's the way that they feel, then maybe they're not your friends. And maybe they're not as cool as you thought they were. And one last thing. I'm not being paid to say this. This is how I feel. And if you think that makes me uncool,
It does.
then you're wrong.
I have no problem with the message of don't give in to peer pressure or whatever. It was ridiculous. He was staring down the barrel of the camera. Again, this is
The
clearly
slow zoom on
the
his
slow.
face.
Yeah. But he ends not with a call to arms for teens to be self-possessed, but I didn't do this for money. This is what I really believe. This is about me. If you think something negative of me, that's on you. Fuck you.
I was getting ready for the end delivery there where he was getting kind of mad and he was like, if you think that makes me uncool. And I was like, what's Kirk Cameron going to say to me right now? I thought he was going to be like, fuck you.
This whole thing is one of those memes where it's like no one, and then it says nothing, and then the next one's Kirk Cameron. If you think, just this huge spiel no one asked for or prompted.
I think you're being a little too hard on Kirk Cameron because, as you know, we are broadcast in 300 countries around the world here on the Bootu Boys, and lots of our fans out there look to us as beacons of morality.
Yeah.
So, of course, I did a new PSA for us, so I'd like to take a listen. Hi, I'm Van Lee of Bootu Inc. A lot of people would tell you that drugs are cool. And these are the same people that are saying, everybody's doing something, so what's your problem? Well, they're wrong. Because not everybody's doing drugs, only the cool people worth talking to. Now look, I'm not telling you how to live your life, but I am telling you that if you want to be popular and fun, you should do a lot of drugs. And if your friends won't be your friends unless you try drugs, then you should thank them, because that means they only have your best interests in mind. Oh, and one last thing. Now, I'm not being paid to say this, obviously. If you think me getting fucked up at night and playing old Mario games for hours on end is cool, then you're right. It is cool. It's cool as fuck. So the next time your friends try to get you to dab or take Big H, Arctic Blast, Skag, Snow Leopard, China Girl, Purple Scissorp, Poppers, Ice, Glass, Snow, Scrabble, Red Bullets, Special K, Golden Dragon, Dover's Deck, Boomers, White Horizon, Jim Candy, Disco Biscuits, Liquid X, Jackpot, TNT, Molly, Joy Juice, Crank, Ivory Fresh, Meow Meow, Snappers, Vitamin D, Moon Rocks, Simple Simon, or Gold Spice, then do it. It'll make you way cooler. I mean, do you want to be called a weenie? Do you? Then do the drugs. Don't be a weenie.
See, and I bet you weren't even sweating when you recorded that. I bet you kept your composure.
I did.
That is how you address the public.
Probably because I had a lot of drugs in me.
No, it could be.
Yeah, it sounded sincere. Yeah, and both of yours did, actually. Kirk Cameron, I believed what he said there as much as I believed any of his acting in the episode. I really believed he meant it.
That's fair.
From his Christian heart, his not yet Christian heart.
And I'm going to say it, Van, I think you're cooler than Kirk Cameron.
Well, yeah, I've been thinking it.
How is that possible?
I don't know.
I agree.
You guys have anything else to say before we wrap it up and next week talk about Matthew Perry for a little while?
Okay, well, at the end of the episode, right before the PSA, Mike goes to bed and Alan Thicke walks over to the door. And this is a whole thing. The camera focuses on it. He does the little latch lock.
Oh, yeah.
Why?
Well,
what is the
it's
symbolism
a dangerous
here?
neighborhood.
Is that what it is?
No,
it
can't be.
He's keeping out the danger.
It 100% is, because Alan Thicke...
But it's not really, like those rich-ass people.
Right, but the implication is Alan Thicke's
I don't
the
trust
world
cocaine.
today. It's the yuppiest shit ever. And I want to say this. That scene cements what to me is the most Reagan-era episode we've ever watched.
Oh,
Everything
yeah.
about this. And the supposed evils that are done here are perpetrated by other wealthy white people, and Alan Thicke's like, I better lock the fucking door.
I get, yeah, so is the implication that normally they don't lock the door at night? It's like that's safe, and
Which
if
is
there's
funny on its
cocaine
own, right?
dealers out there, I'm gonna lock this door.
But just like the idea that in 1987, this guy's like, oh my God, there are drugs. In 1987. The 60s had happened.
Oh, man, the meat of this episode, the content of it was very lacking. It was very lacking. This was a very bad episode of TV. The entire thing was the preachy cocaine thing, for the most part.
Yeah, the B plot it didn't need to be there.
The B plot was them watching TV in the living room with Trudy.
This is one of those, the A plot, if the episode's 22 minutes, the A plot is 19 of it.
Just expand it 3 minutes and be done with it.
Yeah.
Don't forget, guys, in case you're looking for that bright silver lining sort of thing, you both like Trudy. So
Yeah.
we can all agree that it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
To be honest, most everyone in this show outside of Kirk Cameron is fine.
Yeah, that's
Agreed.
true.
Or pretty good.
I really
except a
did.
few.
And there's some moments we'll talk about next week that I genuinely just did enjoy Alan Thicke quite a bit.
Yeah.
He was perfectly fine.
Alan Thicke's good. Most of the cast is fine. I even like that no one at the party, they laugh at Kirk Cameron for leaving. But the show doesn't point out that the crowd is laughing at Kirk Cameron any more for him not doing cocaine than for him just acting like a turd at the end.
How
like,
he handled it.
You guys. And no one calls him any names or anything like that. A lot of these shows, Saved by the Bell included, they ramp up the peer pressure element to levels that would not be real. Like, I've never once in my life been in a situation where someone's doing any drug or drinking or anything, and they get mad at you for not doing it, and everyone gets in a circle and tells you have to, which happens in a lot of shows. In this one, they just laugh at the guy. The guy leaves, and no one tries to stop him.
And realistically, that's more for them.
Yeah,
that's great.
And they would not care. They don't even know this guy except for those 6 people at the end.
John Simpson.
The 6 Dewey Hooters or whatever they are. There's something that I need to say. I'm not getting paid to say this, guys, but we do have to end this episode. And if you think that me ending this episode makes me uncool, you're right.